So I recorded this whole tutorial and then my phone decided to delete it. So I'm going to try this again. Some of the stuff's already filled out, but I'll go through everything still. So let's say you have a problem where you have to find someone who's over 40 who uses TikTok as their main app. So, and that's basically what this table represents. It's ages and then the most main used app. So if you're doing 40 plus crowd, you would do, it would entail this entire section right here. So this whole section, because all these people are 40 and over. And as for TikTok, it would be this whole section. So that would mean this whole category right here. But we're only looking for the stuff right here because we don't really care about anything else. Because we're just looking for the people who are above 40 who use TikTok specifically. So these don't really matter yet. You can fill out this whole table. If you get a question somewhat like this, you can fill out the whole table. It'll kind of make it easier, but if you only have a couple questions, just fill it out one by one, because you have all of your percents here. One thing I would say, though, is to turn things to decimals, just because in my opinion at least, it makes things easier in the end, especially with multiplying and stuff. So just change everything to a decimal first, and then you can put it into percent if you need to, but solve everything math-wise with decimals. So first what you would need to do is you need to calculate each category. So this is 10% is the same as 0.1, and 53% is the same as 0.53. So to calculate this category, you would multiply the two, and that would give you 0.053. And you do the same with these other two categories, and those are the values that you get. So what you're trying to find is these three categories, so you can add them together to get the total probability, because this is an intersection problem because it's an and question. So once you add the three values together, you get 0.159, and then you can turn that into a percent, and you'd get 15.9%. So 15.9% is the probability that someone over 40 uses TikTok as their main app. So intersection is kind of an easier question because it's just one box or multiple boxes and you just add the values together. Where it gets a little bit tricky, though, is union. So I got a submission that asked on the Google form if the addition rule was the same thing as union. And the answer is yes, it is the same thing. There's two different equation kind of things you can use, but they both get you to the same answer, and they're both the same. It's just written slightly different. So let's say you want to find the probability that someone is under 18 or uses Snapchat as their main app. So you can't just calculate both of these and be done with it. You have to actually figure it out because it's an or question. So this box right here, we're under 18 and uses Snapchat, this and category cannot be there. So what you would do is you would take this decimal and this decimal, add them together, and then subtract when that happens at the same time. That's what it means. That's what intersection means. It's when something happens at the same time. So the probability of using Snapchat or being under 18 would be the probability of using Snapchat plus the probability of being under 18 minus when both of those happen at the same time. So in this case, I'm just going to cover this part with my hand. It would be 17% because that's what Snapchat is, and it would be under 18, which is 30%. Turn those two into decimals, and then to figure out the probability of both of those happening, you would just multiply those decimal values together, just like we did here, because it's an intersection that you're trying to find, which you're eventually going to just X out, basically. So once you solve that down, you get 0.051, which is 5.1%. And then what you'd have to do is basically just solve this. So you would do, I'll do it over here, 0.17 plus 0.30 minus 0.051, which, let's calculate that. 0.17 plus 0.30 minus 0.051. That's equal to 0.419, which is 41.9%. So that would be the probability of using Snapchat or being under 18. And this kind of makes, generally it would make sense just because these two are larger percents. So if you got this answer for, I don't know, Twitter and 60 plus, that wouldn't make sense. So when you're solving these questions, you kind of have to like make sense or kind of understand that it makes sense logically based on the numbers that you're given. And when you go through these type of questions, it's just important to make sure you're getting all of your numbers correct, because sometimes when you have a lot of numbers in a table, this is an empty table, so it makes more sense. But when you have all your stuff filled out, just make sure you're using the correct numbers and you're using the right formulas and that kind of stuff. So yeah, just make sure that that works. And yeah, so when you're doing, this is also an area model, so we did one on the tree diagram. Systematic lists aren't going to be used probably as much just because they require like a lot of time and patience. But when you're doing these kinds of probabilities, it might just make sense to use an area model because it's a 2x2. So if you have something that's 3 and up, use a tree or like 3 things and up, use a tree diagram. And if you have something that's 2, just use an area model just because it'll make the most sense.